Hi guys, and welcome to Stacking Wisdom Podcast, episode 11. We're your hosts, Artem and Alex. This episode is brought to you by EFG Inc., Social Media Marketing. And today we're joined with Sean. Sean runs an Art Aggregate, and tell us more about that.
I'm repping the shirt today.
Good for you, man. You should.
I typically wear one of these anyways.
Yeah.
So that when I go to stuff, I'm wearing it already. Thanks for having me on, guys. So essentially we're like a co-working space, which I think people are kind of familiar with in today's day and age, but geared specifically towards people that make things. So I get a lot of artists, designers, furniture builders, fabricators, people doing...
That's amazing because I've seen a lot of shared workspaces, but nothing with specifically with that
like hands-on
kind of angle, right?
So we're geared towards people that like make messes. A lot of co-working spaces like, what do you do? You're a painter? No thanks. Right? We don't need that. So it was kind of like my background sculpture. I was working in my garage.
That's amazing. Okay. How did you start in that? Like, did you go to school there?
I was very interested in like props and set design.
Nice. Okay.
I traveled with the National Dance Company of Ireland for a while, so I had a lot of experience with like stage sets and that kind of thing.
How did you start with that? Like, how did you get into it?
I was a professional dancer for years. I started when I was like five times.
No way. That's amazing.
Yeah, competed all over the world, and then when I graduated from high school, I got offered a job in Dublin. So I moved overseas and then traveled all over Europe and Asia. And
that's incredible.
So,
amazing.
So I did all that, and then I liked kind of the behind the scenes aspects of it, and I wanted to learn more about it. So when I came back, I went to school for sculpture at OCAD, which was kind of like the in between. Like you could go to a college degree and get set kind of whatever. But I wanted just kind of like I had kind of hands-on visual.
Yeah, I was gonna say because it would make a lot more sense if you're doing sculpture. That would be hands-on, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to kind of diversify my skill set, have access to bronze casting and plastic and wood and metal and stuff. I wanted to learn kind of a little bit of everything and then see what I liked and go from there. So I did that, and then when I graduated from school, it's not like there's a big call for sculptors in the world. So you're kind of like freelance contract work
for sure.
Trying to find your own work, anyways. So
starving artist thing.
People say starving artist. There's no such thing as a starving artist.
I don't think there is.
If you're broke, you can't make art. So that's the you need some money to make art.
So that's a really good point. We should point out to a lot of people. So
people think that like artists are starving. It's like not artists that actually make art. No.
Fair enough. No, I like that a lot actually.
So so I was working out of my house, and then it was getting to the point where it's just like that wasn't feasible anymore. I was getting tired of like moving stuff off of other stuff so that I could use equipment. Or the story I tell everybody is like you piss your neighbors off because you're running a saw in the middle of the night. Or my parents and stuff like trucking sawdust and fiberglass through their house, and all like it wasn't working. So I had to find my own space, and then when you get into commercial space, like you have to kind of go big, otherwise there's no point in paying that kind of rent.
Yeah, for sure.
So I had some friends and stuff that or people that I had met through other projects that were also looking for space to work, so it just kind of made sense for us to share, and I was familiar with a few different like co-working models.
That's amazing.
I'd spent a lot of time at like some co-working spaces in the States, which we didn't really have up here yet. It's kind of becoming a thing now with like, some of the public libraries and stuff, which is nice, but in the States it's been like a functioning model for 10 years. So,
one of our guests was mentioning that one of the libraries, I think Brampton Library, they have like a special room just for podcasts. So if you really wanted to do like a podcast with somebody, you could just bring them into the library, shoot it right there, and like do the whole thing there.
I'm pretty sure the Hamilton Central Library
also
has one. Yeah, they have like a podcast space. You can rent like video equipment from them.
That's amazing.
They have like 3D printers and stuff, 3D scanners.
Wow,
so you can do like the issue I have with those spaces is that it's great if you already know what you're doing. So they have the 3D printers, and they have somebody that will turn it on for you, and you can run your own stuff. But like they don't have a tech there. So if you're
they really should have with the 3D printers.
So like if your thing fails, unless you know why it failed, like nobody else knows either, right?
So that would suck.
And then same with the podcast. Here's the camera. Hope you know how to use it, because that's about as far as. So I mean, it's the right direction,
right?
And I mean, you can teach yourself anything on YouTube or Lynda or Skillshare. Like all those things are great resources now. But it was just kind of like, I'm glad to see that there's been a move towards that kind of thing, but back when I started doing this kind of stuff, like that didn't exist.
Right.
So I had to kind of create my own resources and make friends with people that knew how to do those kind of things, so that if I didn't know how to do it, I could get them to do it for me or help me, along the way. And then so it just got into this kind of thing where I had all this space. I was trying to share it with people that were also trying to make things and were running into the same problems that I was running into. And then from there, because I already had the space and I was making things, I just kept taking on contract work. So, like, what do we have on the go? What can I actually talk about that I won't get in trouble for? I mean, we have a job right now with St. Joe's Hospital. So to do some like interactive murals in their dementia and mood disorder wing.
Okay.
So for people that have memory issues and stuff, we can do something to keep them entertained because like hospitals are just depressing.
No kidding,
spaces,
I know.
Right? Yeah. So to help with that a little bit, we have a job coming up over the next month that we're building a mini putt course for the Canadian Open.
Nice. Okay.
So it's the 100th anniversary of it being in Hamilton. 1919 was like the first time that Hamilton hosted it, and then now it's back. So we're doing a thing with like Tourism Hamilton, the city of Hamilton. Whitney, who's organizing it, runs a clothing store in town called Girl in the Wing, and then she's found like
I've heard of that actually. I think
it's like vintage and
it's like a local like celebrity
thing.
Yeah,
she's been there for like 8 years.
Yeah,
she's one of kind of like the original downtown.
I think I've seen her on Instagram actually. I've come across
she
her.
has some cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then she got a group of like local Hamilton artists. So we're building the mini putt things, and then they're the ones like designing the holes, and it's going to be part of like a Hamilton pavilion at the Canadian Open, which is going to be really cool. And then I have another small job right now for Blackwood Gallery at UTM. So
nice. What does that entail?
It's just building some shelving and stuff for them.
Okay.
So we did a larger project for them last year, and then now it's just some repeat work of
nice. Okay.
People coming
How did you come about getting into this project with the J, or like with Joseph Brand, right?
No, it's St. Joe's.
Oh, St. Joe's. My mistake. Okay.
West 5th, I think, is the specific location.
Okay. How does one like come about like getting into a hospital and like do
people reach out? It's one of those. It's
Okay.
just a weird project. So right, like, who would you go to talk to about building?
Exactly.
Right?
That's why it just sounds like such a like interesting concept to begin with. It's just like how do you come about like getting into a project like that, right?
So the way like this specific one, we've done work with them before, but this specific project, the Laura Bromwich, who's the lady that runs it, she's an art therapist at the hospital. She's got a friend who used to be a member of mine. So somebody that's used my space before.
Sure. Okay.
Is a friend of hers, and then
they mentioned
this is the kind of project
Yeah.
we're trying to do. She's like, oh, maybe Sean can do that. So that's just kind of how that happened. But it's a lot, like tons of the work that we do is word of mouth, or hey, I saw this thing that you posted on Instagram.
That's amazing.
And we don't need that, but we need something like in that
spectrum kind of
yeah, like hey, you built this thing, and that's not what we need, but we need somebody to build a thing. So a lot of that.
Fair enough. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So, like, what I guess gives you inspiration with are you still like doing sculptures predominantly, or what are you doing in terms of?
I've kind of moved away from doing a lot of like, let's call it my own practice. I still do some stuff every once in a while. Like if I have what I think is a good idea, I'll kind of run with it. If I'm doing sculptural work, we're trying to push now for a lot of like public art installation. Like I have this like legacy idea. Like I really want to build stuff that I can show my grandkids. So I have this. I don't even have kids yet, but like this whole thing that like, there's
thinking long term goals, right?
Yeah. I want to build stuff that like when I die, it's still going to be there. This thing that like 50 years from now.
You hear that, city of Hamilton?
Yeah. or whatever, Mississauga, Toronto.
GTA, Toronto.
Somewhere that I can drive to.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. But something where it's just like I have this thing of like some sucker in grade 9 having to do a book report thing, or like having to go like do sketches of something that I built. Right?
Nice.
It's just this whole. I don't know. It's this like dream that I have. So a lot of the calls that I'm doing right now is for like larger public works.
Nice.
With Supercrawl, random like we just did a call for the city of Mississauga. What park was it? But anyways, they wanted a bee hotel.
Okay.
So send us some designs, and if you win, you win. So I mean, we haven't heard back on that yet, but like that's kind of a cool project.
It sounds so like random, but like so interesting at the same time.
It's interesting. So like for me, it's a little bit of those like I like the design challenges. Like,
right. Yeah.
Oh, we need this thing. It's like why?
It's definitely like it's almost like you're just wanting those challenges.
Yeah. Like it keeps it interesting. It keeps
for
my
sure.
day-to-day kind of different. The nice part of like my job is that I don't do the same thing every day, right? Like like you guys do it, so just talk to people and see what happens. It's a lot of just like this random thing comes up, I apply to it. If we get it, we get it. If we don't, we don't. Like that's just kind of the nature of contract work. So
it's definitely kind of the same. With every podcast, it's funny because we actually have I think episode 9 that's coming up with one of our guests. She totally came prepared, and she's like, I don't want to talk about myself. She's like, I know what your podcast is about.
Yeah.
She's like, I kind of have an idea, and she's like, this is my agenda. She's like, I have 3 specific things that I wanted to like list touch base on. She's like, this is exactly what I want to talk about. And it was just like, it was like, okay, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, because that's what we're trying to do, is kind of, inspire people. But at the same time, I can see where, like the whole human factor sort of comes in too, because you have to sort of create the interaction. But she was such a like fascinating lady, and it was just, you'll see it, guys. It's coming up soon, and it'll obviously get released before this episode. So
so go back and watch that episode.
So yeah, go back in the future. That's it. Yeah. That's awesome, man. So a lot of, I guess, your friends are sort of in this art aggregate as well, right?
Yeah, I do have a lot of people, and I mean, the nice part is that we have such a varied background. I mean, we have a painter in there right now, we have people that make music in there, we have a jeweler in there, we have people that build furniture.
Wow. Okay.
My mom's a textile artist, my brother's a digital artist, my dad's a contractor. So I mean, like, it's just this huge range of people doing different things, which is really cool, because one of the people doing music stuff is doing like an event. These guys, Nathan and Aaron, they bought April Wine's old tour set, which is a band my parents are.
Right.
They bought like all their tour kit and a few extra speakers and things. They have the amp system from the old ACC.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then they turned it into a dubstep system, and they rent out farmland and throw these like massive parties. But then they also want like cool stuff built throughout those parties. So then we have like some like,
we definitely need to have them on the show then.
Yeah, they're super cool guys.
Nice.
But yeah, like just building stuff like for those events, and then a painter coming to paint it, or doing some mural work for them, or helping them like recoat their speaker system, or doing like custom tags for it. And that's just like one example. And then we have people that are doing other projects. So we have somebody doing like mural work at a restaurant, and then that restaurant also needs furniture. So then they contact me to say like, hey, they're looking to get some tables built. So then I'm building tables for a restaurant that they're doing a painted mural for, that another friend of mine's doing the illustrative like graphic design work for, doing their logos. And then somebody else that we work with is doing their digital presence. So like building their website or helping them do like their online store or whatever.
That's incredible. It sounds so diverse and so like so enriching for the community. It sounds it seems like it.
Yeah, we try to keep as much stuff like in-house as we can. So if I get a job where part of that job could be done by somebody that is either a member of mine or a friend of mine, we try to do as much of that as possible.
Amazing.
Because we're all trying to figure
of course. Of course. But yeah, it sounds like so fascinating. It really is. It almost makes me want to like come to your place and just do like a little segment on it. I think we should just do like a little shoot about it, because it's just.
We should.
I'll be honest with you, like when I started off young, like my mom got me into like playing piano music and stuff like that. So I kind of got into like the artsy stuff, and then when I was in like high school and stuff like that, I was like really into like painting and like doing all kinds of a lot of like creative stuff as well. So it's kind of stuck with me a little bit throughout my different careers and different paths in life too. So I feel very like receptive towards that. And because my mom, she was doing like a lot of documentary filming, and she worked on TV and stuff like that too. With kind of, I think maybe some of those genes kind of passed on to you, maybe. So I always feel like super receptive towards that kind of stuff. So it's really really cool. I mean, I
bounced around all over the place too. Like I still teach dance, but like I was a dancer full time. And then,
you still teach dance? Okay.
Yeah, in Oakville once a week I teach class. But like doing that kind of thing,
Which studio?
It's called Gog and Carol. It's in Trafalgar in the Service Road.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, specifically an Irish dance.
Nice,
school.
That's amazing.
That's what I teach. So we were doing that. I did like me and my brother ran like a small production company thing. So we were doing like music videos and producing EPs and things. And then we were doing like photography work for the Toronto Prop Expo. So these guys, that their full-time jobs is building stuff for movies and TV shows.
Right.
And then in their spare time, they were making like Star Wars figurines and
crazy
costumes and stuff. So we were doing like all the documentation work for that. And every year when they do their event, we still go and shoot the event.
Nice.
Just because we have that kind of relationship with them now. But yeah, like it just kind of bounces all over the place. Like I think being creative is being creative, and whatever you take for that outlet, like for you, like I mean, you're still producing stuff. So I think that's kind of important, is that it doesn't have to be like, oh well, I used to draw and now like that's all I should do is draw. It's like, well, no, if you can make music, like do that. Or if you
I agree 100%. I think it's totally about evolution and kind of evolving yourself as a human being too, and growing, yeah, exactly, right? So it's how, but like this definitely like allows us to kind of like, go beyond the business aspect of things too, and kind of just have a, like, just to kind of share this knowledge with people too, because like, I don't know, I think that there's so much stuff online and there's so many things that are available, but there's nothing really specifically maybe that's sort of maybe Canadian centric to some extent.
Yeah.
That we kind of want to inspire people to get started into this if they feel like this is for them. I mean, like I said, it's not really for everyone, but at the same time, for the people that it is for, they can take a lot away from this, hopefully, right? But at the same time, it allows us to kind of build relationship with people too, and kind of establish, that's exactly right. So for sure, and but we decided to kind of position ourselves in Mississauga because it's close to Toronto, but it's close to the area that we live in as well, and which is like Halton Peel, like Hamilton area. So it's kind of close to us, and we feel like Southern Ontario is so big and so diverse, but yet it's so small. It's really small,
and
especially
downtown Toronto every day for years, right?
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And I lived in Oakville for a while. I went to school at Cothra.
Nice.
I was in Erin Mills for a while. Like you just kind of Southern
well,
Ontario,
especially when you go abroad, when you travel abroad, when you come back, it's just things are like on a different scale.
Like
I mean, mind you,
like, that's a daily thing.
So tell us more about your travel and like you going to Ireland. I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's really like daunting to just kind of up and leave and go somewhere, especially once you've lived your whole life in one country and never really traveled outside of your country.
It helped. So I have a bunch of family there still. So
my
fair
dad's
an immigrant. Like my dad moved over here when he was a kid from Ireland. So I mean, like my aunt's still there, a bunch of my cousins and stuff are still there. I got like great aunts and uncles, and
fair enough.
I'm sure there's people that I've never met that that I'm related to. That
the 100 other cousins that you haven't met.
Second cousins, their kids, all that stuff. So who knows? But so when I graduated from high school, I got accepted to like York and Ryerson, both for their performance dance programs.
Nice.
And then I got offered this job, and I was kind of like on the fence. Now here's a tip for the kids at home that are watching this that are like thinking about going to school. You can defer university.
That's true.
Yeah. Right. So you call them, you pay them $100, and they'll keep your acceptance open. So you can leave for a year and then come back, and the spot's still there. You don't have to reapply. It's still held for you. You don't have to worry about that. Like so. If you're going to take some time off, like do that.
Amazing.
Yeah, defer your university. Like you're still accepted, just do that. So that's what I did initially. Is I just deferred and then said, I'm going to go give this a try. The first two places that we were going to, like, I was landing in Dublin, living there for 3 weeks while we did a training thing, and then we were in Russia for a month. Then I was in Holland for a couple of weeks. Then I was in China for a month, and then I was in like Germany, Switzerland, Norway. Like that was the first tour.
Nice.
So it's like. I mean, I want to go to all those places. So I was like, we'll do that. And then a year went by, and I was back at home, and I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to go to school again. So I deferred again, and then went again for another year. And then that happened, like after the second time, you can't defer more than twice. So I just kind of dropped the school thing because I was like, well, why am I going to go to school for a job that I already have? So then I just traveled for 4.5 years.
Nice.
Just
Okay.
all over the place. So I've been to 45 countries. Something like that. Like I've been to literally every country in Europe. Been all over Asia. We did Australia. Been all over the States. All over Canada. So just kind of like take that opportunity and go with it. And the nice part is like I was getting paid to do that. Like it's not like I was making a bunch of money, but it was enough that like when we were in somewhere, it's like, hey, do you guys want to go see this like crazy monument thing or go do that tour or whatever? Like we had the money to do that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Or just in like downtime, like you could be. The crazy thing about Europe is that like it's not cheap, but like it's cheap to move around. So we could be in Dublin and then like $50 you could be in Madrid that same day.
Yeah.
So cheaper than
take
going
EasyJet or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like cheaper than going from here to Montreal. You could go to anywhere in Europe. Like, hey, you want to go have lunch in Germany today? Yeah, for sure, right? Like, why not? So we could just do that kind of thing, which is super cool. So I really had a good time with that. And then when I came back from touring, it was that same thing of like, well, I'm not going to apply to go to the same thing. And that's when I had been really interested in the whole like behind the scenes of the show piece.
Right.
So I was interested in looking at options. So I still looked at like Ryerson in York for like their musical theater programs, or like there's I think it's Sheridan that has a set building, like a props design type thing. And I had looked at a few of those options and then finally settled on going to OCAD for sculpture.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Does it ever like make you wonder if you were still able to like go back and travel? Because I mean, like it's kind of like crazy because like when you go on such a like long journey and you experience so many things, like I know you always kind of want to go back to a little bit to the comfort of your home, but at the same time it's kind of like broadens your horizons so much that you're sometimes you might feel like a little bored in like areas, you know what I mean? Like
I know. Like I miss the traveling end of it. Like I really like going to see new places and stuff. As far as the show end of it, like it just beats the crap out of your body. So
I can
yeah, like
only
it was just
imagine.
getting to the point where like I still liked doing it and stuff,
Yeah.
but it was one of those, if I want my knees to work when I'm 50, I need to stop, right? So, and I think that's what a lot of people run into. I mean, you look at like these Olympic level athletes,
Yeah,
like
sure.
you know, there's a reason that there's like, why is everybody here 25 all the time? Because like after that, your body stops working. So like there's kind of a cap on that end of it. So I wish I could do more of it. I just don't think that I could like physically
sustain it.
Like,
but I think even with your profession, I mean, you can go off and like do really anything anywhere.
Oh yeah,
because you're so good at it from the sounds of it. Like you're so involved in the actual creative process, right? That
Theoretically, if I decided that see you later, Hamilton, I'm going to go move to like
China or something.
I can do that, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's like a jobs like that exist, especially from a production end, because of all the like there's a massive movie production scene in China right now. So you, for sure you could just like move over there, try and find a job, and you could do that whole route if you were so inclined to like.
I mean, they've become a lot more accepting of foreigners, especially coming for work and stuff like that in China too.
Yeah, I think there's,
and especially in movie business too, because I know they have a lot of actually like B movie stars and stuff like that go there to film a lot of films.
Oh, for sure,
just because they're still considered a Hollywood star, right? So
exactly, and I mean, there's such a big production end of things. Like when you look at like all the Marvel movies, like they're shooting that stuff all over the world because
they are, of course.
That's just how that world exists, and like in the comics and stuff, like it happens everywhere. So you have to go to all these different locations and shoot it. And then now, because that's making so much money, there's like these little industries popping up all over the place that are trying to support that, right? So that instead of you bringing a unit from Georgia, when you go to Istanbul, you just use the unit that already exists in Istanbul. Right?
Exactly.
So it's really cool that way. And I think that if you have a skill set and you're not tied down, like if you don't have a house and a family and stuff here, like. Right, like
go travel. No,
like don't do it full time, but like there's no reason you couldn't go to like Hong Kong and work for 2 years. Like, why not? Yeah, or get a visa. Like if your parents are Polish and you can get like a Polish visa, like go to you know what I mean? Like go to Krakow for two years,
for sure.
Right? Like go spend 6 months there. Why not? Yeah, anywhere you got family, go.
I think that like traveling really broadens your horizons too, and especially for somebody who's involved with like the artistic side of things too, because it like opens your eyes to seeing the world from a different perspective altogether, completely, right? Because it's like the way maybe we're brought up in North America is just we're kind of only shown that it's really just there's just the one way lawyer, engineer, or doctor, right? And then like it's just more like
I have so many friends that went to school to be teachers that like can't get jobs now, right? Because you're in the wrong.
Well, now especially with too, I heard there's a lot of cuts now too.
So I mean, if you want to move to like northern Manitoba, for sure, all kinds of jobs.
Well, just like I heard that if you move to like Northwest Territories, I think for a period of 10 years, and you develop a farm of some sort, and you hire locals,
then they'll
give you like a piece of land for free.
Like Alaska used to be the same way. Like up until fairly recently, if you went to Alaska, like there was no rules. You could, as long as you built, like you could build a house, do whatever you want.
It's funny. I used to live in Alaska actually for 4 years.
Free land, right? You build a house there, it's yours. It's like enjoy it. Because they were just encouraging people to go there, and I'm sure like you look at.
There's a lot of provinces actually that still do that kind of thing. But
Saskatchewan, it's just a big flat land. Right? Like, if you're as long as you don't want to be in a main city, like I'm sure Regina's not going to do anything for you, or I'm sure like whatever Saskatoon. But if you go north, like if you're in the middle of the plains. Like there's all kinds of benefits. You want to be a doctor or a dentist in the middle of nowhere, they'll pay you all kinds of money. But it sucks.
It really does.
There's a trade-off. Yeah,
it's kind of funny too, because if you look at Canada, it's so diverse, and but yet it's so big, but yet it's so. It feels like it's really global, but yet it's so like local at the same time. It's such a like different contrast to our country, and just. I don't know. I think it's really awesome because you can experience so many different things along the way, and the stuff that you do too. And
I always feel that we have this like imminent boom that's gonna happen, because you look at somewhere like the States that has 10 times our population in the same amount of land mass. So someday somebody's going to figure out like, hey, we have all these empty provinces that we could just like cram 20 more million people into. And that's just going to happen overnight. Like if the government wanted to, they could just like open the floodgates and just fill this place with millions of people.
Well, it's kind of like what happened with Montreal too, remember? Because with the whole thing, I think it was like 60s or 70s when they started to kind of get a little political, right?
Yeah.
And all those big corporations, they're like, okay, like forget this, we're upping and leaving to Ontario.
Yeah.
And like Montreal was like so much bigger than Toronto was,
Yeah.
and it was like the central hub. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, they all moved and like they all came to Toronto, right? So, and it's kind of crazy how that happened, but it's. I mean, it's not really a thing that couldn't really happen. Definitely, I can see that happening in the future. Yeah. So we should definitely consider investing into other provinces.
Seriously, it's just the cold. That's the issue, right?
Yeah, but we live in Canada, but it's a given. It's like
come on,
it's like
warming.
are we really gonna complain about the snow?
No,
I don't know, man.
Well, not here, but I mean, I'm sure like Northwest Territories is just a whole different
whole different world.
Cold and it's dark for 6 months type thing. Like it's tough.
When you get that, it gets a little mental too.
Depressing, yeah.
Well, it's not even that. I think it's just your body naturally needs that vitamin D, and when you don't get enough of it, you start to kind of just dwell on things, and you kind of become someone just down about
it's
stuff.
Cold and it's dark and it's lonely. It's not
and then you start to resort to other things like alcohol or whatever else. It's just it doesn't get pretty. So I know. I was born in a really cold place. So I was actually born in USSR. So it's funny that how you mentioned how you went to Russia too. And but I spent more than half of my life already in Canada. So it's definitely my home here.
I think
so
grand total, I spent maybe 6 months in Russia.
Wow. Okay.
A couple of weeks and stuff. Like I've been to Latvia, Belarus.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah.
Yugoslavia. I've been to Kazakhstan. Like all these kind of.
That's crazy. Well, you said you traveled to like 45 countries. And every single country in Europe you've been to.
Yep.
Like even like Liechtenstein, like all
these like not for long periods of time.
Right.
Like we drove through everything to get through. Like I mean, I was in Kazakhstan for a week.
Nice.
Why would you go to Kazakhstan? Well, because it's the fastest way from that end of Russia to this end of Russia. Without taking.
People think it's but like it's like the end of the earth, but it's not. It's such a really cool place, and people are so nice there.
We're gonna be driving through like Mongolia for 2 days. So okay, sure, why not?
It's crazy. I just like the whole travel thing resonates with me because I've been to a lot of places myself, so I kind of I know exactly what you're talking about. So I think that in itself allowed me to kind of have a very kind of open perception towards people to begin with, and just have like a lot more of that acceptance. But at the same time, it kind of it sets some, I think, preconceived notions about things, because it's almost like your previous experience, you kind of use that towards the future and how you kind of make past judgments, so it kind of makes it unfair a little bit. I don't know.
Well, and I mean, you get like, you have certain notions, I guess, of like places that you're going to go to. You're like, man, it's not going to be good. And sometimes you're right. But other times you're like, it's just, the world's not a big place. Like,
it really isn't. It really isn't.
This place in Germany is the same as this place in Sweden, and is the same as this place in Norway. Like, it's just a European town, the same way that like every major city in the States just feels like a major city in the States, right? Like it just has the same kind of vibe, right? You go, there's skyscrapers, there's restaurants, and that like.
I think a lot of the culture is becoming is starting to become very blurred as well in a lot of ways too, especially like in Europe, because they have such a big influence from the States, right? And same could be probably said about Asia as well, because they take on so much of that, Americanized kind of identity that they kind of want to really adopt it, right?
Well, doesn't Canada have the most spoken languages in the world or something? Like
something like that, yeah.
160 something.
Yeah, 168 or something spoken in Toronto. Something along those lines.
Like that's impressive, right?
Yeah.
That there's that many different cultures and people here, and it still works. Right? I guess is the biggest.
Well, it does, but if you go to like rural area, like it's so different. It's not. It's not like Toronto at all. Like so you go to like Manitoba, Saskatchewan. Like I'm sure it's gonna be like, and I get that too, because I grew up with like my uncle and my grandfather like hunting and like being very like very like just local like to their area, right? So I can see how a lot of people they kind of get offended by when people just show up and they just kind of act a little bit obnoxious, and that's the perception at least they get, right? So a lot of the time, so I can see how they can come across as being that too. So
I mean, I think you just need to be open to new ideas, new people, new whatever, right? Like
But I think that's the problem that most humans have is that we're kind of we always make our judgments based on past experience, and especially if you're conditioned by your parents to make those previous whatever previous experience that they had, they pass down onto you. It kind of makes you kind of a little bit, you know,
Think the same way.
yeah, they, like think the same way or have the, kind of the same analogy or, you know, culture or whatever else it might be, right? So to some extent,
I think I was really lucky in that respect. Like, I think a lot of what I wanted to do, my parents were always just kind of on board. Like, whatever, you'll figure it out, right? Like, so you want to go try this, cool. If you like it, you'll like it. If you don't, well,
obviously, especially with you going to like Ireland, I mean, you obviously had some family, but still, I mean, like, it's still, like, it's a completely different thing, right? It was just like,
okay, so I'm a guy and I dance,
Yeah.
right? So like when I was a kid, that was, I mean, like the kind of homophobia, I guess, that like
yeah, sure,
surrounded
I can
was, like,
understand that.
a lot
Yeah.
higher than it is now. And you know, even when I first said that I wanted to do that, like my dad was like, "But like, do you really want to? Like, you can play hockey." I'm like, I already do play hockey, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I could try both. And then I started doing that, and then he kind of got on board because like, oh, he's actually like pretty good at this. Right? Like, oh, this
Nice,
is
nice,
yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, you know, I'm sure he had his like skepticism about it, but then you actually start doing it.
It always comes with some sort of stigma for sure, yeah.
Yeah, so
Right.
I mean, it's a different world now than it was when
Oh,
I was
it's
10,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's definitely
The whole like anti like bullying like movement and them trying to like promote like diversity so much more. Yeah, like on the internet. Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah,
grew up with a black and white TV.
yeah.
Right? Like,
I did too.
exactly, right? So, like,
You'd have to come over and like turn the knob to change the channel, right?
we got our first color television because one day I came home from school and I was like, why do all my friends think that Big Bird's yellow? It's like, for me, Big Bird was gray. Right? My parents were like, God damn. So they had to go out and get a color TV because, you know,
Well, that's a story right there. You can tell your grandkids, right? One day, when I was your age,
when I was your age, we had the picture box. Was gray.
picture came in different shades of black and white.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, it's really has become such a different world. I remember. I think that's one of the things that kind of gives me a lot of advantage too, is because with like my brother's generation, right? They kind of grew up with the cell phones and
What's
you know
age
the computer.
difference in you guys?
It is. I'll tell you exactly. It's like 18 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
it's a pretty drastic. Like, my brother's like 3 years younger than me.
Yeah.
My sister's like 7 years younger than
Yeah.
me. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's like me and my sister, it's a little bit of a gap, but yeah, that's definitely like that's a full generation.
Yeah. But at the same time, like I've experienced a lot of the stuff that he's like comfortable with,
Yeah.
and it's my like everyday reality too. But at the same time, I can totally resonate with what you're saying, like, you know, like watching black and white TV or like, you know, going out with your friends and playing until like 2 a.m. and like not having to ever worry to, you know, check in on Instagram and make sure that I'm, you know, everybody knows what I'm doing right now. Like, it's just like, it kind of gave me the ability to kind of experience like best of both worlds kind of to some extent, right? So, because we're living in now, but at the same time, I kind of caught that little end of that generational gap between when technology started to really kind of creep in and like start, you know, in a lot of ways too. So yeah, that's crazy, man.
I mean, we didn't really have like usable internet.
Yeah,
I was in
dial-up,
Prior to
AOL.
that, it was just trash. Right?
Get those like specialty, the trial packages, remember?
Yeah, like ICQ and stuff, right? The AOL discs, right? Wow.
I remember back in the days of ICQ, that was wild too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just trying to reminisce about the old stuff.
Oh man.
So tell us more about this place. I mean, like, what kind of people can sort of come into this, you know?
Into MySpace?
Yeah.
Oh.
Is it only for artists? Is it only for people that are sort of, you know, in that?
That's what we're geared towards. But I mean, we get people in. Like, one of my members is a lady that she's got some extra free time. I think she's retired, and it's just she comes in and refinishes furniture. Like, she goes to auctions, buys an old dresser, brings it in, sands it all down, restains it, clear coats it, and then puts it in her house.
And they get to use all the tools and everything that you have in place too.
So, you know, she's not working in her house, so she gets to go have her alone time. She doesn't have to deal with her kids, sometimes, you know, her husband, whatever. Like,
perfect.
You know, the issue I had when I was working at home is you're like, oh, I could do some laundry. I should probably start cooking dinner.
There's always a distraction.
For a while. Like, it's just those distractions that, you know, what should take 5 minutes now takes an hour because you're like, I'll get back to work in a minute, right? Like, oh, I'm just gonna watch this one TV show before I get back.
There's
to
a
work.
game coming up. I think I'll check out 5 minutes of it, right?
You know, you're doing all that kind of like that kind of thing, which is really distracting. So I think it's just a lot of people that we deal with is they just want to go to work, so that the only thing that they're working on is what they're working on, and the distractions that they have is that they're talking to other people that are working. So, I mean, as much as that can be distracting as well, you sit down for coffee with someone, you get chatting. I think you're still learning and you're still like trying to develop a skill set. So it's kind of like the good kind of distraction. And then the follow up of that is we get a lot of people that live in condos or live in basement apartments because that's kind of more of a reality of 2019
It really is,
like
yeah,
people
yeah.
don't have garages or a backyard or a shed or these kind of places where like your granddad had a shed in his backyard and that was his little workshop and he could go there and like tinker,
go there for the day and not come back till dinner,
work on his car or whatever it is that he was doing, and like that doesn't, like, people don't have that anymore. They live in a condo,
Right.
500 square feet, they got a bed, they got a TV, they got a kitchen, and if they want to do anything they have to leave, right? So and there's also been this kind of swell in like the DIY,
for sure.
people
It's
just want to
been a
learn
huge
skills,
market,
huge market, right? The amount of times in a day that I hear like, oh hey, I saw this thing on Pinterest. Sure, man. Let's go. We'll figure it out, right?
Oh yeah, I know that channel. I'm like, no, I have no idea.
No, hey, I said, like send me a photo. Let me see. Right? So I mean, that kind of thing. That's been a huge push. Is the DIY crafting, Etsy, Pinterest, like all that's been huge. And then there's also a thing like just people want to learn. So the cooking classes, yoga classes, dance classes, woodworking classes, like all these kind of things. People just want to go out and experience things. And they want to learn how to play an instrument. They want to learn how to cook for themselves. So I think there's just this like push for people to like continuing education all the time, and they're not signing up for like a series of classes. Like it's not like they go to the same cooking class every week. They want to go do it, try it once, and if they like it, they go find other ones. But if they don't like it, they tried it, they learned, and now they're going to go try something else.
Want something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of that as well. I mean, I deal with a ton of like young couples that they got their first house. And they're like, it's kind of a dive, so we want to like learn how to trim our doors or like do some nice crown molding or that kind of thing, and then come in and learn how to use the tools and learn how to do that kind of thing. So go to Home Depot.
And you have like specific like workshops that like deal with that.
Yeah. So like my dad being a contractor, or whatever, like he'll run a workshop on like how to cut baseboard for your house.
Nice.
So you can come in, learn how to use a saw. Lowe's or Home Depot have this like one porter cable chop saw.
Yeah,
that folds up and it fits like nice and it's like $99. Right?
Nice.
So you can go to Home Depot or any of these places, or like there's one that we use a lot in Burlington called Tamarack. It's just like a
I've heard of it.
price place. So you go buy your baseboard from there. You go to the hardware store and buy your little chop saw, and like that's all you need, right? And we'll show you how to use those two specific things, and you can do your whole house. So instead of you paying hundreds, not to rob contractors of work,
of course.
These young couples weren't going to hire you anyways. So like instead of them just not doing the work, they can take a weekend, do these little jobs for themselves, and then like feel one that they accomplished something, and two, like they've added a little bit of value to their space.
I love that. I love that you're trying to like empower people to get back to actually creating stuff, and I think that's one of the things that's really lacking in today's world is actually taking the time to do stuff for yourself, right? Because I think that there's sort of a trend that's kind of evolving towards that, but not everybody's embracing it. A lot of them are kind of like faking it online a little bit by saying that they do it, but at the same time it's like we've lost so much touch because of this. And then we should be like really just creating things with our hands, right?
People just want consumable stuff. Like, I see these kids going to school to be cabinet makers and stuff. Like IKEA destroyed that market. Right? I can't even buy the wood for a cabinet for what IKEA is selling a finished product for. So it's just like this whole, it depends on what you want. Do you need just cabinets? Like, do you need a bookshelf, or do you want to have like a bookshelf? Like when I do furniture pieces, like you can just go buy a table that'll last you a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is, for a couple $100. Or I could build you a table. It's going to cost you a couple grand, but your grandkids are going to fight over it because it's still going to be fine when you die, right? Like of course. These are kind of like heirloom pieces, which I think, like, again, our grandparents kind of had. I
Absolutely,
have my
of course,
grandfather's dining room table because like it was built well and it still holds up. So it's a nice piece of furniture. It probably won't survive like another 2 generations, but it did well for its time. So that didn't cost me anything, and I got this like nice piece. So I think there's this level of like there's some stuff that is just kind of the quick consumable. You need it right now. That's great, but there's other stuff like you could do good work on this and then have this for the rest of your life.
Right.
So I think there's kind of those two different streams, and I think people want to learn how to make things like. I can't be the only one that has this legacy idea, right? Like that.
Of course.
That I'm gonna make this thing and it's gonna I'm gonna have it forever. So I think that's an interesting piece. So
I totally resonate with that because I used to work in like kitchens. I had like like a cook's education too that I went to school for. So I've kind of dabbled in that. So I can totally relate in, passing down stuff. So I mean, you can take an old cast iron pan and you can scrub the crap out of it and make it brand new and you can still use it, right? I mean,
it'll be good until it degrades.
And I think that for a lot of people, it's become like very much of just like a throwaway kind of society where we kind of need to start bringing back some of the, like, the old school stuff where it's just like, it's okay to have old stuff and reuse it. And like, it's actually great. And it's probably just as good, and it can last for hundreds of years, right? So
a really good butcher's knife.
No kidding.
Is going to be better. Plus, then you have to work that cost out. This one that you spend a couple $100 on now, that's going to last you your whole life, or the one that costs $50 you have to replace every 2 years.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's an investment. It depends, and that doesn't work for everything. Like your car is going to fall apart, and you're going to beat the crap out of it. And
just because they design them like that now, right?
That's how they do now, right? Like your PlayStation is not going to last forever. So I mean, there's some things that it is what it is, but there's definitely been this whole push for people that want to learn how to do things for themselves, that want to not even necessarily that they're going to do them, but just to better understand how that works, so that when people that know how to fix their car, doesn't mean that they're gonna fix it, but when they take it to the mechanic, they know that they're not gonna get hosed because they understand the work that needs done. So when they're saying like, oh, well, you have to fix this and change that or whatever, you can actually say like, no, that's fine. Like I know that it's just this one part that needs fixed, and the other things they'll be fine.
I have a feeling like what you were mentioning before the camera started rolling. I'm gonna sort of put you on the spot a little bit, but
no, that's fine.
With you saying that you're working to sort of develop a YouTube channel for yourself, right?
Yeah.
I have a feeling like that's sort of gonna resonate with a lot of that kind of things.
Yeah, well, and the main part of that is the projects that we take on are like all over the place. I mean, even just those three that I mentioned, like the mini putt thing, the thing for the hospital, and the thing for the University of Toronto. Like those are three entirely different projects that are going to need entirely different skill sets, but they're kind of in the same realm of like, I got this contract, here's how we're going to produce it, finished product, install, and then in use, right? Like there's a whole story there.
Right.
And I think it's just following that. And then the other part is because I have so many people doing diverse things working in the space, any day that I'm not producing content, we could just follow somebody else that day, right? Like,
absolutely.
We're going to go watch Richard paint for a while. Right? Hey, I got this commission from somebody to paint this picture. It's going to be an elephant. It's going to be like these crazy colors, and then just like watch him start to finish, and then like him giving it to the client, and then them finish shot of it like in their house or something. Like all of these projects have a story. It's not like we're making something for the sake of making it, and then it just goes into storage. Like all of these things are getting built for people. So I think there's an interesting thing to like have that person on camera to like talk about what they need and what they want it for, then us producing it, and then the afterwards conversation of like, oh yeah, this is what I wanted, this is what we're going to use it for, and then like it in use.
You've totally hit the nail on the head. I think that's a lot of the times, like with the stuff that we deal specifically for like social media marketing, is a lot of the clients they kind of struggle with the idea of how do they go about creating content, like where do they get it from? It's just it's like it's just documenting like your throughout like your day, your journey, or like whatever it is that you're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of them like complain about, oh, I don't have the time to do that. Well, it's like you're doing the same stuff
just
that
work
you do
it into
in your
your
everyday
routine,
life, just pulling out a phone and recording it.
The biggest issue that I have is not even that I don't have time to do it.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through a project and I go, why was I not filming this?
Yeah, I honestly feel like you should install like cameras at your place. I just keep them rolling, man. Just have them on a loop and be like, oh yeah, like an hour ago I started recording this. I should go back and like I should have like did some posts about that.
Times I get into a project and I'm like, you idiot, why did you not film that? And then also editing, like just sit down.
It's a very time consuming for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I have paperwork days too. Like I have some days where all I did today was sit on my computer and like answer emails and do invoices and do some design work or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said, like that is still content from a business management aspect. Like there's something to be said about like you at a computer being like, this is part of the job. Like it's not just I get to do fun stuff all the time. Like sometimes I have to sit down and just answer phone calls. Right? That's just kind of the reality of it.
Yeah, and people still resonate with that because it's open and it's truthful, right?
Right,
Like it's your everyday thing.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I would just like to post all the time, being like, "Oh, we're just doing this sweet thing," like we had to like get to that sweet thing. So,
Of course, yeah. So how do you like sort of create the balance? I guess that's one of the things that I've always asked with people that are somewhat artistic that are on a show specifically, is like how do you find that medium for yourself like where you're like, because like for a lot of artists, for example, they say sometimes like, oh, this guy sold out, right? It's like, where do you draw that line where like to say no to the money just because like it doesn't go along with maybe your beliefs or whatever else it might be.
So I've done some talks with some students at like OCAD and McMaster and stuff, and the thing that I say to all of them is sell it as fast as you can. Right? That's the like, if anybody gives you the opportunity, take it.
Fair enough.
Because there's two realms, right? If you're making art for the sake of making art, you're not going to make money. And if you're just doing it to make money, you're not going to be producing anything that you like. So I'm like, most of the times, these are going to be two separate realms that never the two shall meet.
Sure.
Right? You're going to do like the work that you like to do, and then the work that pays you. And you have to do that, especially for when you're first starting out, because like you have to find what people are going to buy and make a bunch of that, and then use that money to fund the stuff that you like to do. Like, oh, I love to just do like, pictures of dogs. It's like cool, but unless you have like a huge client base of people that want to buy dog pictures, especially when it's not their dog, right? Like you're not going to make any money. So but you can already draw and you're like, hey, I can do a lot of like photographers are the biggest thing.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Go do like the corporate headshots and the birthday parties and the wedding photography. Like, if you have the skill set to do those things, that stuff's going to pay you. And then in your spare time, you just like to go take pictures of trains. Like, go do that, but at least you got paid, and now you have that free time to go do that thing that you like.
It's almost like you're committing yourself up front by delivering this kind of thing to other people, and then in return, like you're allowing to build your brand along the way, and then you can sort of start releasing your own stuff, kind of
thing, right?
Yeah.
So then you can start to work that thing into your like put out those like, hey, I did this whole series of train photos.
Sure.
And then if people like that stuff, then they have the opportunity to buy that, and you're not hurting yourself, right? You can expose that to your clientele, and then maybe somebody wants to buy it, or like, hey, that one corporate gig that you did this thing, they're looking for like a new piece for their office,
right?
And then you have the opportunity to make that sale. And I'm just using like this is just an example type, but it's understanding that a lot of the time people don't get to just do what they love all the time, right? That's not. If you're in that position, like if you get to do 100% of the time the thing that you like to do and you get paid, like good for you. But that's not. Really
I think you'll get bored of it eventually too, because it's almost like a hobby, right? Like
it is a hobby.
Yeah, right. So
if you want to enjoy what you do, you have to keep part of it for you that you enjoy.
For sure.
So. Yeah, like if it becomes your full-time job, it just becomes a drag. Like, oh man, I don't want to work today. Well, you just said that you don't want to do the thing that you love to do today. That just now you're in like a whole different realm of like self-pity, right? So there's this there's definitely this thing where if you understand from the get-go that this and this need to be separate ideas, get paid and do the thing that you like, and then eventually down the road, if those things get to meet up and somebody wants to pay you to do that thing, amazing. But for the most part, you have to understand that these are going to be separate ideas. And I'm not saying you don't like what you do, but chances are it's not going to be your favorite thing in the world to do.
It's just I agree with you 100%, because I think it's almost like when you give first, it's like people start to recognize that, and that allows you to kind of bring along your skills, your artistic development and whatever else that you can bring to the game. That sort of allows you to kind of play on the things that you want to deliver to the world, and it kind of allows you to to build that channel at first, but then it allows you to use that channel to kind of channel your art or whatever else it might be, right? So I think that a lot of people kind of really overthink it, and that's actually a really good point that you bring up. It's sometimes it's the best thing to sell out at first, just because you can get your the knowledge about yourself out there, and then everything else comes after that, right? So it's like it's like making little sacrifices, right all on the road.
Or it's not even a sacrifice if you understand that it's a means to an end.
No, I'm just talking more from perspective of an artistic person, because a lot of times they have a dilemma about these kind of things, right? So it'd be like, I don't want to work for this big corporation because it's gonna feel like it's soul sucking and like whatever else, right? Because a lot of people they kind of have that outlook on, I think, on life. Not necessarily everyone, but
No, not everyone. I mean, if you're happy to be some hermit that lives in the forest and whatever, that's fine. But I mean, realistically, you probably have bills to pay. Like, you got a car, you got a house, you got whatever. So, you know, even those corporate jobs, like, you can get, not every corporation's evil. Like, there's,
That's true.
You know, like, there's some good corporate job, you got benefits. So, like, you know, your kids have health care, and you can go get glasses if you need them. Like, it has its benefits, right?
For sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially when they're starting out, or especially when they're like still in school, they just have these ideas like, oh, I'm just going to be like a gallery artist. It's like, I doesn't pay anything. Most gallery shows that I've done, I actually had to pay to be in them, not the other way around.
Right.
So unless you already have that money to show, like, you're not going to get into these galleries anyway.
So the lesson I think is, you know, don't get stuck in one medium, and always try to like explore and involve yourself.
Evolve,
especially you know, if you're artistic and if you have that ability to kind of create and deliver, that, you know, to always be able to kind of adjust to the situation, like whatever else.
Oh
you need to.
adaptability is definitely the biggest thing. Like, if you even if you don't have the skill set, like when I was first starting out, like, we would take on jobs that, hey, can you do this? Yeah.
Sure.
Well, like, and not that I wasn't confident, but
you
know, I don't have that tool yet. But if I get this job, I can afford to buy that tool. So you just have to like do that. You know, photography, video stuff, whatever, right? Like, hey, can you come do this thing? It's like, yeah, I wish I had a better lens for that. But, you know, oh, I wish I had like that macro lens so I could do that shot. Well, if I get that job and I can afford that lens, then you know, it works out. I get to build my inventory of cool stuff that I have, and I got that job, and I get to have the portfolio piece afterwards. So,
but you know, I think a lot of times people overthink about those kind of things, because I mean, tools are great and they can definitely enhance your ability to deliver stuff. But as one of the things that, like, one of this one chef that I trained with, one of the things he taught me, he said that a cook should be able to prepare a meal anywhere he is.
oh yeah.
So like if you're out in the forest and you start a fire, and if you can't really control the heat, you should still be able to prepare a good solid meal, right? So no matter what.
Well, you should still be able to feed yourself.
Yeah, no, of course.
You know,
So,
it's not gonna be fine dining, but like, it'll be sustenance.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you can probably still maybe fine dining if you've done it long enough.
Yeah.
Here's a nice fillet of wild pork, right? Or wild boar, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's
a good craftsman never blames his tools. But I mean, having like a sharp knife versus a dull knife.
of course.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, there's some essentials that you probably need, but at the same time, like, even if you look at some of those shows, like where, you know, like Top Chef or something like that, they'll throw like a challenge at them and be like, you can do this, but you're not allowed to use knives, and they still come up with creative ideas, right? So it's I think that a lot of times people kind of hinder themselves by thinking that they can only do with the tools.
I only have this.
I can only do this because I don't have that, right? So, and I think a lot of the times that's not really the case.
No.
It's more of just, if you really believe in yourself as an artist, or if you really believe in yourself as a chef or a cook or whatever else, you can do this.
Well, and if you look at all of the most successful people in the world at anything, they have like also talented friends.
Yeah.
Right? Like the chef,
Well, it's who you surround yourself with too. Yeah.
The chef could be the best chef in the world if he's got crappy. You know, if he's got a bad host and a bad, you know, server and a bad management team, like, it's not going to work.
It's not. Right.
So, you know, if you have these skills and like, oh, I wish I could do this like bigger project, like, get your friends to help you, right? or go make better friends.
Yeah, so true.
Right?
Yeah, so true.
Go to some networking events and meet somebody that like knows how to do that thing that you're trying to learn how to do.
So if you're an artist and if you're in Hamilton, come see him.
Hamilton or anywhere.
Yeah, I know. I'm just.
No,
just pointing out just the general areas. So.
We'll travel.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Tell us more about just your, you know. There's so many things, so many questions I want to ask you in terms of just. You come off as such a like interesting person. It's just such a.
I've had some experiences.
Just a few. You know, here and there, you do like random stuff with like designs for hospitals and like, you know, like. Oh man.
Get the weirdest jobs. It's cool though. I like it. It keeps it fun.
And it's not like really you ever have to like keep yourself motivated, because the things are just so diverse and so different all the time, right?
Well, it's true and not true. Right?
No.
Like, the hardest part about working for yourself is that like you got to be like, I don't have a boss there. Hey man, you're late today. Like like. If I was like, I'm gonna sleep today, right? Like, I could do that, but then I'm not getting paid.
Yeah.
So like you have to be very much a self-starter if you're gonna have your own business. You have to understand that this is your job and that you have to get up and go to work. And now, mind you, like the nice part about being your own boss is like, if today I was like, you know what, I'm actually going to sleep in and not get to work right away, I could stay there till 2 a.m. Like, who cares, right? It just helps me. So, you know, there's some days where like I have to put in a full like 14-hour day into a project because I'm on a roll, or like I need to like get to a certain point of the project. And then there's other days where it's like, this can wait till this afternoon, right? This can wait, you know, I'm going to go take dinner because, you know, my fiance's done work. We're going to go meet for dinner or stuff, and then I'll get back to it afterwards because that's, you know, it's somebody's birthday.
Sure.
I'll go out for a beer, and then I can come back and do my next coat of paint afterwards, or come back in the morning first thing. Like, there's a little bit of that flexibility, which, I mean, if you're like an accountant and you work daytime, like, you know, you're not going to be able to feel that necessarily, but there's certain benefits to being your own boss, which is that kind of thing. But then the downfall is like, you have to be the one enforcing those things on yourself.
Well, and you have to, like, you know, make sure, like, you know, you do your taxes and like whatever else. Like,
Doing all that paperwork for yourself is terrible. Like, when I was starting the business, like, I was doing stuff with like the BBC, Futurepreneur, all this paperwork to, you know, the business plans, all that kind of stuff. I hated every moment of that, and just to like, but understanding that like it was a necessary step to get to where I wanted to be, so you just have to like buckle down, do it. You know, I would set alarms on my phone. I would get my fiance to yell at me. I would get my mom to call me and be like, "Hey, did you do that thing yet?" Like, because I just needed to have that like constant.
Well, it's good to have that framework of people that can support you, and you know, in that sense too, because if you don't have that, it's a lot harder to you know, motivate yourself every single moment of life, right?
Yeah, just put it in place like, hey, can you, like, I'm going to forget right now, but I remember right now, like at 3 o'clock, can you call me and tell me to go do that thing, because I'm going to forget. And
nice.
then, like, you just set that alarm, or you get somebody to follow up with you. Be like, hey, did you do that thing yet today? And you'd be like, oh, nice, thanks. Right? Like, aren't you supposed to be leaving for a meeting? Like, right now? It's like, yes, I am supposed to be doing that. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, so with the business plan, like, one of the things that we actually discussed in the podcast that we recorded earlier today with Jillian, she like stresses, you know, the idea of like long-term planning, right? And like setting long-term goals. Would you say that you're sort of following in the path of that you set out with your business plan initially, and then?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Part of it is that it's still that adaptability. So like, you think you can be like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. You know, people are going to love it. It's going to work perfectly. And then like, it definitely doesn't do any of those things. And you're like, all right, well, we got to pivot on that a little bit. Like, it's the same idea, but you have to change things. I have a constant thing in my shop, so it's called Rule Zero. I stole that from Adam Savage of the Mythbusters.
Nice.
Rule Zero is don't make me make rules. Right? Nice. So if we have to put a rule in place because somebody screwed something up. So, you know, I run a co-working workshop, and like there's all kinds of stuff that could happen or could go wrong, or could break or whatever. So the first thing is like, if at any point you think to yourself like, oh, if I just do, like, don't do it, right? Don't stick your hand in that thing. Don't touch the thing that's moving.
Don't touch the sharp blade that's spinning.
All that kind of stuff. So you like you learn. Stuff happens. I mean, we've never had like any. You know, I'm the only person that cuts themselves ever. But like, you know, no serious injuries or anything. But that's just because like we're constantly learning. Like, hey man, I need to like cut this thing. It's like, I've never had to cut a triangle like that before. So we have to like figure out how we can do that safely. And then also like with a bunch of these projects that I take on, like a lot of it's stuff that I've never done before, but I know how to do it. So you just have to kind of like learn as you go, and just be open to be like, this is how I would do it, but if it doesn't work, we're going to have to learn a new way to do it, right? Like,
YouTube to the rescue?
Yeah, YouTube to the rescue, or just like break the first one. Like, try it, didn't work, but all right, well, then you can learn from like how it broke.
Well, you got to learn from your mistakes too, right?
Exactly, yeah, as much as I would like to say that, like, I had a plan and like I just stuck with it, like every day is a new thing. So, you know, 80% of it was like, this is exactly what I wanted to do, and then there's little changes down the road, but like it still looks like the same thing from the start. It just, it has different pieces.
So what, on a grander scale of things, like where are you trying to take this business? Are you trying to kind of make it evolve into something else, grow into something else? Like
bigger.
Definitely
bigger would be like a next thing, like you know, this other, I mean, a plaza type thing.
Right.
So like if another business ever left, like maybe I would take over some more space, just so that we had, you know, to have a full-time photo studio would be amazing, or to have like event space that was just ready to go would be super cool. Just for, you know, oh hey man, I'm trying to like find a space where I can take pictures of a car. Well, we could do it, but we'd have to like juggle a whole bunch
rearrange
of stuff.
Stuff.
Whereas if we just had a space where it's like, yeah man, come in today, like you could just bring it, that would be amazing. Or like, hey, I want to run this kind of workshop, do you have the space for that? And sometimes yes, but other times I have to take like there is jobs and projects that I have to turn down because we just can't do it. So every once in a while, stuff happens where it's like, you know what, I actually can justify buying a bigger laser cutter. So now I can take on those bigger jobs, or like.
Well, it kind of spoils you too because you get to play with all the little toys, right?
Yeah, right? It's
like, oh, I get to buy this tool now too.
Yeah. So
and I can justify why I'm getting it too.
Justify, or I meet people that I didn't have access to before, and then you meet somebody that's like owns. One of my new members has he owns a moving company. So now it's jobs where it's like, well, how am I going to build this and then bring it to them and drop it off and install it? Like we're gonna have to like cut it into pieces and then go there and like reassemble it. And now it's just like he's got a moving truck. Like we can just load it on his truck and drive it there. Throw him $100. He's happy, right? Like it's this kind of thing where like he gets to also be a part of these like weird projects, and I get to have like it's cheaper than me renting a truck. And
no kidding, I know.
Or do anything. Like I can just go talk to him. So it's you just meet new people that have different skills, and we can use them. I meet like industry partner things, like people that own like a printing company. So, before I was going to do a poster this big, and now I can do this big massive thing. Or vinyl wraps for cars, or like not that I have a use for it right now, but maybe down the road. Like it's just you just have to build this network of things, and I have. And
the industry itself has evolved so much too, because I knew actually this guy that's I actually inquired a long time ago into possibly getting like a franchise somewhere set up in like Oakville, and like I know it's changed so much and it's blown up so much, and there's been so much innovation in that specific sector too, but it's definitely here to stay. It's not going away. So it's sort of a creative aspect to it, because you get to design it, you get to sort of help some brand really grow and to promote them, but at the same time it's kind of a totally artistic thing.
Well, it's also why I just love meeting other small business owners that are kind of in the first like 5 years of their thing, because we're all kind of at the same level,
right?
And then you meet these people, and then their business explodes, right? Like it gets huge, and then you have that connection. Or I know some restaurant owners that's great, we met, they don't need any work right now, but then I get a phone call 2 years later being like, hey, we opened up a new location, I need this and this. Well, I already have that relationship in place, and now I get to be the one that does that work.
So it's amazing. It's almost like
you have to play
your work like allows you to kind of build so many relationships with other local businesses that it kind of creates almost like so much more of a community sense to it as well, right? So it becomes almost meaningful work. So and so it's in such a like different sense too, right?
And I like going places and then like knowing people in the room. Right? Like, I like going to networking events and being like, I know that guy and I know that lady, and like this dude did awesome work with me 6 months ago, and we haven't talked since then. But then you touch base, you're like, oh man, I was just thinking about you. I have this other project, and like, that's just it's amazing. That's a great feeling. So I get really frustrated when I go somewhere and I don't know anybody. Right? Like what did I do wrong? Why do I?
It's probably all your travels through Europe and Asia, right?
But I mean, like if I
it's rubbing off on you. It's telling you like, well, I've gone through that. Now I don't want to deal with that kind of thing anymore, right? So.
Yeah, like if I go to a networking thing now, and I mean, there's different scales, but like if I go to a room and there's 200 people there and I don't know anybody, I'm like, what did I do wrong? Like, how have I not broken into this, into this industry before, or like into this room? And sometimes it's just a case of like, this is your first time there, so that's when you make those connections. But it's definitely like a, how can I make it so that like my reputation precedes me? How can I make it so that like when I meet somebody, maybe they don't know me, but they know of my business already, or they know of my work already. Like, oh hey, we were part of this project. Like, oh, I just saw that with my kid last week. We were at the the Canadian Open. We played on your mini putt course, right? Like, those are the kind of things that's really rewarding for me. Is that people like I get tagged on Instagram like, oh, we did this thing last year for the Arkells rally at Tim Hortons Field. We did this like photo opportunity.
Nice.
Thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So like overnight, I got 1,000 people tagged me in things because like they were just all taking photos with it.
Amazing.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And you meet a lot of people from that, and they don't know who I am. They don't know who my business is, but they know my work, right?
Yeah.
And they were enjoying it, and they were.
That's so cool that like it allows you to kind of get so much more exposure because of technology, but also because of your creative work that you've done, right?
Which is for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, like it's it's incredible because if you think about that, 30 years ago, that probably wouldn't really be even possible, right?
So mouth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Unless the news was there and put it on the news, unless the local newspaper was there taking pictures of it, nobody would know what it was.
Yeah, but news is all on the phone now. Nobody watches the newspaper. Exactly. Yeah. Everybody's putting stuff on for sure.
Well, you never know that one random girl there has 100,000 followers on Twitter. Right? Like you never know, right? She just posts this thing and it explodes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's one of those wild things, but that also can be sort of a bad thing too, because if you don't really watch what you post on social media, it can really backfire on you. It can really totally crush you, and it can mess up your career. That's
why being a restaurant is the toughest thing right now, because people have
everybody's a Yelp review.
Seriously, it's crazy. That's got to be a stressful industry. I don't know how people do that all day.
It really is.
I used to be a bartender for years, and same thing. It's a different world now.
The front of the house and the back of the house are two completely different beasts too.
But I mean, one photo could make it so that you're the most popular restaurant in town, or one photo could make it so that nobody ever comes back. Yeah. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it can also probably generate a lot of money if you've been doing it right. And but the problem, I think, the biggest problem with going into restaurant business is the profit margins are so low, and you make majority of your money on liquor sales, so that you almost have to be a bar
and now
nowadays.
everywhere, there's a Taco Bell at Hamilton now that has a liquor license. Everybody has a liquor license.
Starbucks has a liquor license.
Right, so
want to grab a beer and a coffee? It's like, what? Starbucks?
But I think the kind of lesson there is just whatever project you're working on, put your best foot forward with it. Try to within reason. I mean, it doesn't need to be a masterpiece every time, but you do as good of work as you can for that project, right? And try to be nice to people. Again, everybody has frustrating clients
for sure.
That you have arguments with, that you have stuff doesn't work out.
Yeah, but that just comes with territory. That's
it's being a business
yeah, exactly.
Right? You're never gonna have 5-star reviews, right? It's gonna be 4.8.
But it's not like that. But it's addressing those concerns too, and letting other customers know online that you actually are acknowledging that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of businesses are sort of oblivious to that kind of thing too, and there'll be a negative comment, and they'll never even reply, and they'll never try to fix the situation, right?
Be bullheaded about it. You just have to roll with it and be like, you know what, I screwed up on that project, and sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes it's just a difficult customer, and you just have to
or just a difficult situation. It couldn't really.
Sorry about that, whatever, and then just never work with that person again.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes that's just the case.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think that it truly is incredible, the fact that you're trying to bring a lot of artists and a lot of people that are, kind of trying to channel a lot of the artistic output and stuff. And then the things that they do.
It's just that we all build each other up.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And that's what I really love about that is the fact that you guys have almost built up sort of a sense of community together too. Yeah. And you're helping each other, and it's almost it's like you're communicating and you're being present and you're being creative, and that in itself is really, really awesome, because I think we need a lot more of that in today's world, because
I think that's the driving factor, is that there's a ton of these little small businesses, and the way that we're all going to be successful is that if we all kind of share our experience, share our knowledge, share our challenges and tribulations and all that stuff. If we're all open with each other, we can all learn from each other's stuff. Instead of it being I had that problem last year. Wait till this guy screws this up too. Right? You don't want that.
No, of course.
Even people that I compete with, I want them to do well, because if their business does well, my business does
exactly
well,
right.
There's overflow work, right? If social media marketing blows up and does really well, and you have another company in Mississauga that's doing really good work, well, they get busy. So now even if you're getting their overflow clients, that's still good for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that's that restaurant was full, so we're gonna come try your restaurant. Perfect.
Yeah.
Right. The line at that bank was super long. We're gonna come to your bank. Great. Right. That's awesome for everybody.
Yeah. I think it's just, I agree with you 100%. It's just staying relevant and being willing to evolve and grow with whatever the market needs are too, and trying to reflect that, but also being somewhat true to yourself as well. I think that's kind of the really important thing that's a lot of people should take away into their own business as well, right? I mean, because it's important to be you, but it's also be important for you to have that reception and perception for you to be to grow as a human being, right? So that's I think that's what's one of those things. Where can they find you, man? Plug all your stuff.
Yeah, predominantly Instagram and Facebook. So
Okay.
at Art Aggregate, ARTAGGREGATE.
Nice.
That's it's the same for all that. I mean, I have Twitter. I don't really use it, but you can.
I don't think anybody really uses
like
Twitter
follow
anymore.
there and then, like,
It's died off. It's almost like for just for the angry people.
There's a lot of like, bots on it too.
Angry
now.
people
Yeah.
and comedians. Yeah. Artaggregate.ca, and then once the YouTube thing's up and going, that'll be also.
Yeah, we're
I already
really
own the channel.
we're really gonna look forward to that, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it'll be good. I just need a little bit more time.
Yeah, I think you'll develop it. You should definitely look into those cameras, man, because if you start installing that and or just having a camera in place and just hitting record before you even start doing any of the stuff, right?
Yeah, I think it's mostly.
I just let it roll for like 3 hours or something, right? And then go.
Yeah.
But then again, like you run into issues with editing and whatever else. But that's just part of creation, right? So and I'm sure you're aware of that, especially with designing stuff too. So thank you so much for coming on our podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
You're awesome, and like I said, I really absolutely love your idea. I'd love to come by and visit it.
come
And maybe do like a little segment about it on our YouTube channel too, because I really love the idea, and I think that it's really. I don't want to sound cheesy, but it's really wonderful. Honestly, it is.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Thanks so much, man. Do you have anything else going on at all, or other than this? I'm sure it takes up majority of your life too, right?
I mean, that does. Between that, I'm getting married. I'm teaching. Like that's like
Yeah.
most of my time.
Yeah.
I actually just won the OCAD University Trailblazer Award for this year.
No way, that's amazing.
I'm getting that in May, which is gonna be
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
And then I've applied to I got nominated for the Hamilton Arts Awards. So
Incredible.
I don't know if I got that or not yet, but I got nominated anyway. So that's super cool.
That's incredible, man. Well, and it sounds like you really deserve it, because I mean, with the amount of effort and just your artistic output that you've put in so far in your life, it seems like you really deserve it.
Thanks.
I mean, I haven't really personally seen a lot of your work. Probably, I've looked at some of the things on Instagram that you've been doing, but from what I can tell, it's just you come off like a really well traveled, well versed.
Trying to be prolific.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. So, thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you, guys.
It was a pleasure having you on the show again. Thanks for being here.
I hope this goes well for you guys.
Hey, well, thank you.
Good. Awesome.
Thank you.